Okay, why don't we get started? Thanks everyone for joining today's webinar. It's a really light topic that I'm sure will create no questions or conversation whatsoever. I'll move my microphone closer. Hopefully the sound is better now. Yeah, so thank you very much for joining. I personally believe, and Posotron as a company believes, in being as open and honest as humanly possible about what we do with technology and most importantly, what we do with data. There's a lot going on in the technology industry where some of the biggest companies in our lives believe something very different. So the goal is to, let all of our users know exactly what we do and exactly what's happening to the stuff they put into our system. So stuff being an extremely technical term for data. So please feel free to, as I said, please put any Q&A you have into the Q&A box. Or I guess you probably won't have any A's, but you'll have some Q's. And, we can only answer questions or be part of a conversation if we're involved in the conversation. So I truly mean this honestly. Please ask us questions now or following up or book a meeting with us because we want to be as open as we can, but we can only do that for the most part if we get the questions directly. So we don't hide from the fact that we use AI. However, Positron believes in the power of technology and AI to make humans more efficient, accurate, and effective, but not to replace them. I want to underline that, not to replace them. And we're going to go into great detail a little bit later about how our tool is actually specifically designed and actually cannot replace a person fully. And I'll talk about some of the actual design decisions we made in building our tool that way. To be super clear, Positron does not use your data to create an AI likeness of your voice, and I will get into the actual legal details of why we cannot do that in a few minutes. Positron does not sell or share your data to third parties. So we're not aggregating data and selling it to Apple or something like that. That's not what we do and not what we ever will do. And then third, we do not replace human proofers, editors, or I will add narrators with software. And I'm going to read this. This is kind of one of our internal mission statements. Positron is a company that cares deeply about the art of audiobooks, and we're here to use technology to enhance your telling of the story. I have two kids who are obsessed with audiobooks. They have listened to we just finished reading through all the Harry Potter books. They will just listen to Stephen Fry's reading of some random segment of a Harry Potter book on repeat over and over and over again. They love stories, and I believe that's a human endeavor. They don't want to hear ChatGPT read them a story. They want to hear a human telling the story. So one of the most important things I want to say is that compared to many other AI tools out there, specifically many tools that are in synthetic voice, everything you see every feature you see, every back-end algorithm that powers Positron is Positron built and Positron owned. We don't go license an ASR algorithm for someone. We don't go share your data because it's easier to go license someone else's algorithm and then send the data and get the results back. We don't do that. We build it. We build the tool, we run the tool, and we own the tool. And that's part of the reason why we fully control what happens with your data. Okay, going back a little bit, what is artificial intelligence? So AI is defined as a computer system or algorithm that has been designed by humans for the purpose of executing a task to, in theory, benefit humans. Just because something has the term AI in it doesn't make it evil, doesn't make it, directly targeting replacing a human. Some AI tools are definitely targeting that, not Positron. There are two general classifications. There's narrow AI and general AI. Narrow AI meaning it's something designed to complete a very specific set of tasks. General AI would be something more like DeepSeek, which was just in the news a lot this week, or OpenAI, which is, a very broad set of tools to do a whole bunch of different things, from write me an email to, create a logo for my golf team. Lots of different things that it can do. It's not just one thing. So there are four general classifications of AI. The first being reactive machine AI, which are AI systems that have no memory and are task specific, meaning that an input always delivers the same set of outputs. So for example, a chess computer or the Netflix recommendation algorithm. Second would be limited memory AI, which is an algorithm that imitates the way our brain's neurons work together, meaning that it gets smarter as it receives more data to train on. Limited memory AI, unlike reactive machine AI, can look into the past and monitor specific objects or situations over time. To be super clear, these are the only two types of AI that actually currently exist. The other two, I should say like the Tesla autopilot or Google Maps direction suggestions and stuff like that. Those are good examples of things that are powered by limited memory AI. Theory of mind AI. They are theoretical. They do not exist. However, they could exist in future. So I don't have any real world examples. But if theory of mind AI would be developed, it would have the potential to understand the world and how other entities, humans, other AIs, have thoughts and emotions. And in turn, this affects how they behave in relation to those around them. So not only are they taking data, hard data, and then providing an output, it would actually then start predicting how Johnny would react to something that they do, and then a good example. I'm rewatching the most recent Mission Impossible, and that AI where it's computing tens of thousands of potential things Ethan Hunt could do is a good example of what theory of mind AI would be. And then finally, self-aware AI. It goes beyond a step beyond theory of mind AI and understanding emotions to being aware of themselves, their state of being able to sense or predict others' feelings. For example, knowing I'm hungry becomes I know I am hungry, and then I want to eat lasagna because I'm hungry and lasagna is my favorite food. So maybe not the best example, but that is Skynet from Terminator. Doesn't necessarily mean if self-aware AI exists or becomes possible in the future that it's going to want to destroy humanity, but that's mostly how fiction portrays it. And I just want to be very clear, AI is a system or algorithm designed to do something humans tell it to. And so what the AI can do depends on what the human behind it directs it to do. So we believe that AI is the best tool, is a very good tool for enhancing human performance, whereas some other people believe it's a tool to replace human performance. Okay, what do we do with customer data? And in this case, capital D data in our terms of service is defined as the transcript and recording together with any copies thereof, derivative works, adaptations, modifications, enhancements, improvements, analyses, and interpretations. But basically what this means, capital D data, is the script you upload and the audio files you upload to proofing. That is the general sense of what it is. And our terms of service, which is a legal document, basically that you agree to when you first create your Pozotron account. They govern what we can do with this data uploaded by users to Pozotron. And these are governed by what we can actually do with that data is governed by the capital P, capital U permitted uses, which are providing the services hereunder. We need to do a bunch of processing to the script and to the audio file, which I'll actually get into in a few minutes, to actually allow you to proof your stuff in Pozotron. So we have to do things to allow you to actually use our tools. Research, development, troubleshooting, debugging, and testing of the services. Sometimes if you share a project with staff at Pozotron.com, we actually have to go in and look at it and figure out what's wrong and point you in the right direction. And then thirdly, improvement of the functionality of the services. And I'm going to get really in detail on this in a second. Any questions yet, Johnny? What we do with this data. So I just want to be very clear, the permitted uses are extremely specific about what we can do. The use restrictions are also extremely specific. So the company, being us, Pozotron, shall not use customers' data for the purposes of mapping or replicating the performative elements of human narration. This was actually negotiated in conversations with PANA, which is a company organization we've actually just started sponsoring, which is great. We've been looking to do that for a while and very happy to sponsor that great organization. And this was around concerns of could you use data on, the only word I could think of is like the patois of human speech or acting choices, and then use that to better teach AI voice synthesis algorithms. No, we cannot do that. We cannot use customer data to create an artificial likeness of a voice provided by customer as part of the services hereunder. We also, in discussion with PANA, added this next section. Without the prior consent of customer and the person whose voice is used in the recording, which is defined as the consenting narrator. So in that case, I want to be very clear. We are aware that if I'm a publisher or a production company and I pay Johnny to do narration, he may send the audio to me, and then I may upload it to Pozotron. So the person actually uploading the audio isn't the person whose voice is isn't in the actual transcription. So should we ever decide, which again, not in the roadmap, not something that would even be a smart business decision, to get into AI narration, we would actually have to get the consent of the narrator to use that data. Just to be super clear, I've said this previously before, the only way I could see us ever getting into anything close to AI narration would be Johnny as a narrator could train a version of his voice controlled by him and use it to fix very small pickups. So instead of saying, if the script says, I see a green tree in my front yard, and Johnny says, I see a tree in my yard, he could use that AI tool to add the word green and add the word front into there instead of having to re-record that. Not in the roadmap, not anywhere close, but that is the one way I could see, and actually have had that requested by quite a few narrators over time. So just to be really clear and honest there, open there. And then what happens if you don't want your data to be used? I'll get to your question in a second. So we do have a data exclusion option, which is we can toggle one thing on your account and it'll make sure that when we do create our data sets, it does not use your audio at all. Just to be clear, there is a fee for this. And the reason for that is just like your kid doesn't get to go to school if you don't pay taxes, in theory, you get the benefits of the AI training or algorithms getting better without actually contributing to that. So that is the reason, and it's very common across the entire software industry. But then there is also the data deletion option, which at any time, the project owner can go into the project settings, click on delete project, and it'll irrevocably delete that data, which is the script and the audio files and all the user, everything you did in there from our main database within a day, and our backups after a week, because we have backups on backups on backups. Okay, question from David. Will we have confirmation Pozotron projects intellectual property, David, if you could just clarify that, because I'm not sure what exactly you're looking for confirmation on. Or I can bring you up onto the stage if you'd rather. Okay, I'll wait for David to jump in there, and I can go back. Okay, so what I want to talk about here quickly is what exactly is improvement of the functionality of the services. So what does that mean? So we use something called the data flywheel. I guess I didn't need to go back because I put improvement of the functionality of the services at the top. So to create our proofing data sets, we make anonymized electronic copies of sentences from the transcript, which is the manuscript, and copies of the corresponding segments in the recordings in which those sentences are recorded, so the actual audio chapter is uploaded, for the purpose of electronically comparing the sentence in the audio segment in order to improve the accuracy of the service's ability to compare voices to text. So we have hundreds of thousands of hours of audio and matching text in our system. When we want to do a retraining, say we want to retrain an algorithm for Swedish, we will actually go, we built a tool that will take random segments that we know are very accurate, matching script to text, create a big data set. Again, I want to make sure, it's anonymous. We can't tell who uploaded it. We can't tell who the speaker is. And then we use that to run machine learning algorithms to improve the accuracy. And we can actually track exactly how accurate it is and how accurate it becomes. So how does that work? So our effectiveness is based on this data flywheel, which is based on continuously retraining an algorithm as more data becomes available. Step one, when we want to launch a new language, we now support, I think, 12 or 13 different languages. So a recent example is we launched Italian. What we do is we find a publicly available data set where either it's free public use, like the Mozilla Common Voice data set, or we'll go and we'll purchase a data set that has very specific terms on what we can and cannot do with it. We don't just go scrape YouTube, as is currently being litigated in many, many, many lawsuits around many other, AI companies. So we don't do that. We always make sure we have the right rights to do it. We use that data set to create an initial version of the algorithm. We launch it. Often in a new language, we'll have a couple different tests or beta users where they'll go through and actually work on projects in Pozotron without or with a slightly less accurate algorithm than we would all like. And then once there's enough data in there, we'll actually go build that data set with user data, and obviously according to the terms of service. And then we'll retrain it with that new data set, and then we'll launch the algorithm again, and then we will keep doing that. So the reason it's called the data flywheel is it's designed to never stop. So you keep rerunning the training to keep improving the algorithm. David, I think that's something probably that we should talk about offline. Everything in writing is in our terms of service. So if you need to discuss that in more detail, happy to. Our terms of service is very clear on what we do with intellectual property, and it's very clear for a reason. And it very specifically outlines what we can and cannot do with stuff uploaded. So let's touch base offline about if you have any specific questions, or feel free to ask, specific questions right now. But yeah, our terms of service are very clear, and I just outlined exactly what we can and do with terms of service. With data, I should say. And there's our data flywheel spinning. So, okay. So where in Pozotron is AI and machine learning used? So I'll talk a little bit about a proofing tool first. When you upload a manuscript, PDF, EPUB, or Word format, there's a bunch of things that we do. So first, we parse the book. We take that script and we convert it into a very plain HTML document, which you can actually see if you go to import, export, book full text. That'll actually show you just the clean parsing of exactly how we read the script. So go into your project, import, export, book full text. That'll show you exactly what we do, or what it looks like when we've actually parsed it. We then go through a process of text normalization, which basically means we look at the text and we say, what would a normal human say from this text? So if the text says 12:10 on October 30, 1849, or sorry, 1849, a normal human would not read it the way I read it. A normal human would likely read it as 12:10 p.m. on October 30th, 1849. So based on a whole bunch of different techniques we've used, we predict what a normal human will say from the words in the script. Then when an audio chapter is processed, first thing, we detect the language and make sure it is in the same language as the manuscript uploaded. Then we will do automated speech recognition, which is an internal algorithm we've built that will say, hey, what's in the audio? What is actually being said in text format. So we will essentially, simplifying it, convert the audio to text format. Then we will do normalization on the audio. So if our ASR algorithm hears 12:10 p.m. on October 30th, 1849, we will convert that in the text to, we predict that 12:10 on October 30, 1849 will be what's in the script. So we do two types of normalization, which is really one of the main differentiators in Pozotron and why our tool is so good. And then we do something called forced alignment, which is matching what is said in the audio to what is said in the text. So that's when you upload, if you have a 10-chapter book and you just upload chapter 5, that's why you don't need to upload them in order. Pozotron will find the correct section of the text and match the two, and then we provide all the potential mistakes. One thing to note, the only two limitations to our speech-to-text forced alignment algorithm. Number one, you can skip a paragraph or a couple paragraphs in some cases. If you upload chapters 1, 2, and 6 to the same audio file, Pozotron will get lost because it can't tell, is this 1, 2, and 6, or this chapter's 1 and 2, and then 6 should be chapter 3, which 6 should come right after chapter 2. And so that's why that's one of the main limitations. And then the other one that sometimes throws it off is if you have a real PDF issue, which I'll get into later, it looks like your PDF is gobbledygook and it just does not match what is in our ASR output, which is the actual transcription of the audio. Okay, in our script prep and other tools, we use AI and machine learning as well. So pronunciation guide, our suggestions algorithm, very clearly, we use a whole bunch of different techniques to predict what words you need to research. We've actually just launched, and I'll get into this in a couple minutes, we've actually just launched the ability to control your suggestions and either make it really, really specific or a little broader with fewer suggestions. So that is a tool. And in future, we will also start using a lot more user data to better predict what is actually a complex or difficult word. So for example, if we suggest the word positron 100 times to 100 different users, and it is because we think it's a complex word, and 0 times is that actually added to a research list, we'll stop suggesting that. So that is not something we do in great detail yet, but that is in the plans. And then making it specific to users as well is a whole nother step beyond that. So maybe for Johnny, Pozotron would be suggested and it wouldn't be suggested for me. So those are all things where we use machine learning for. In the character guide, suggestions algorithm again, there's a number of different things we use here. Words that are capitalized, words that are nouns that are referred to in a certain way in a script are more likely to be a person's name. And then we also have pre-created lists of people's names that we've been able to source to, use those as suggestions as well. Our character descriptions tool, which is very much a work in progress, but I'll show another demo of that, where it'll actually, if you see a little AI tag on that character, it'll automatically pull cues from the script, and it'll say Johnny has a nicely waxed mustache and a gruff, deep voice. So those are things that we obviously have run a large language model on. We run those algorithms on your script file, and then we give those automated cues for how you should perform a character. We also have a dialogue detector, which we are working on, which will be able to show all occurrences of a character speaking in the script. And I'll show some demos of all of these tools. And then our audio analysis tool as well. We have to go test a bunch of files and see how the specs work compared to our spec checker and make sure that audio analysis tool is accurate and also as sensitive as we need it to be. Okay, what do we do with personal data, which is different than the audio and transcripts that you upload? So our privacy policy, which is again written on our website, and Lindsay, if you could send a link to that, defines personal data, which may include but may not be limited to email address, first name, last name, phone number, cookies and usage data, information you provide to us through forms and surveys. There is a new customer survey coming out later this week. Please respond to it. Details of transactions, so that's what you actually put into Pozotron so we can bill you. Records and copies of your correspondence, that's like the things you add into Pozotron or an email to us in support, and then recordings and transcripts. And then usage data may include or may not be limited to your IP address, browser type, browser version, type of device you are using, pages that you visit, the time and date of your visit, the time spent on those pages, unique device identifiers, and other diagnostic data. Very similar to what I would guess to be the privacy policy of everything you use from your phone to your Amazon Alexa to. But what we do with that data, we can use it for providing our services. Obviously, we need your email address for you to be able to have an account and log into it. Improving our services. Customer support, again, obvious reasons. And then this is the big one, marketing purposes with your consent. You don't want to hear from us? Unsubscribe to an email. If you want to only hear from us on certain things, so for example, if you only want to hear from us when we have an outage, which we have a planned outage on Saturday for 20 minutes to do some database upgrades at 1 a.m. Pacific time, I believe, we can customize that. So we can only use it for marketing purposes with your consent. Okay, I'm going to get into a few frequently asked questions we get for data usage in our terms of service and our privacy policies. But again, if you have any questions, please let us know. Does Pozotron sell and transfer your data to anyone else? No. We have all of our servers are hosted in Google Cloud very securely. So Google can't go in and they don't have rights to use that data, but they do host our servers. But no, everything is kept in our ecosystem. How secure is Pozotron? We have passed the IT audits of Disney, the New York Times, multiple of the big five. We take security very clearly, very, very seriously. And we also know that the things you're uploading to Pozotron are precious and they are your property. So yes, you're giving us the rights to do things with them according to our terms of service, but we are well aware that, releasing a book script to the wider internet it would be very bad for all parties involved, especially Pozotron. So yeah, we're very secure. We put a lot of time and effort into making sure they're secure. There is a line in our terms of service. We, being Pozotron, may revise and update our terms of service at our sole discretion. What does this mean? We could change it to say anything we wanted, but legally, any material change, which is other than adding a comma or changing or fixing a typo, anything that is a significant change to what we do and what the terms of the agreement are, we would have to actually we would have to notify you, and you would have the right to opt out of that. So we have to tell you we can make whatever changes you want. That does not mean you have to agree to those changes. If you don't agree to the changes, you'd stop using Pozotron, get all your data deleted, and boom, there's your protection, is that we can change it to whatever we want. You don't have to agree to it. What if Pozotron is purchased? Same thing. They could change the terms of service to whatever they want, but they would have to notify users, and then you would have the ability to not agree to those changes. Just to be clear, we're not negotiating to be purchased at any time. That's not our short-term goal, but it's tech, and it's the reality of how, to some degree, how the industry works. So anyone who purchased Pozotron, I know Johnny's got 2 or 3 billion burning a hole in his pocket right now, but anyone who purchased Pozotron could change those terms of service, but you as a user would have the ability to not agree to those changes. What if I don't want Pozotron to use my data? You have the data exclusion option, again, likely with a fee, or the data deletion option. You can delete your projects once you're done with them, and they are no longer in our data sets. They're no longer in our database to use. Also means you can no longer access those projects in Pozotron, just to be clear. How are narrators protected? Our terms of service are really clear on what we can and can't do with the data. And if we ever did, again, very clear, not something we're planning, not something we want to do, nor would it be a smart decision for us as a business. We would have to get your consent to start using data to create AI likenesses of the voice. So just we're say one thing I said at APAC a couple years ago that was kind of a turning point for the public perception of Pozotron. We wouldn't have a business without human narration. So even if you don't believe that we're good people, even if you don't believe we believe in human storytelling, pragmatically, our business, our revenue streams would not exist without human narration, full stop. So is Pozotron planning to create AI voices? No, with the small caveat that I mentioned. I could see a time where a narrator could control a version of their own voice to fix their own pickups, likely limited to a couple words here or there. We would not build a tool that would be able to narrate paragraphs in a row or even sentences. So just to be clear there. But I think that is an example of, a AI tool that would augment human performance and not have the ability to replace it. Okay. I am pretty aware of what goes on in, the wider narrator community, and how Pozotron is or may be part of those discussions. I know there's a lot of discussion right now on how Pozotron is involved in increased number of pickups for narrators. When Microsoft Word was created and they incorporated spell check, I guarantee the number of typos found in a document was increased. Guaranteed. However, there are a lot of things we do on both the product design perspective and then also how we communicate and train people to use our product, designed to do as much as we can to minimize the impact on narrators. So what do we do to eliminate superfluous pickups? So firstly, when we pitch Pozotron, when we describe what Pozotron is, it is spell check for voice recordings. At least our proofing tool is. This is, on the left side, the exact same section of text in Microsoft Word with a couple, obviously, added purposeful typos. And on the right, our proofing tool. You can probably see the little red underlines look familiar. We specifically designed the tool to be something familiar, so people would at least understand that you need a human to go in and listen to these things. User input is required by design. If you go in, so there's a reason why if you upload a script, you upload an audio file, and then just goes directly to a pickup packet, it's a big old error. This export will be empty because there are no annotations marked to pickup in this project. Please open proofing and mark your desired pickups as pickup before exporting this report again. If you do not go click pickup, the export is blank. It's also a reason we make it extremely difficult to just, with one click of a button, mark all as a pickup. We don't want people going in there and just saying, yep, everything Pozotron said, pickup, done. Secondly, I want to go into a few new things that we've actually brought out in relation to not just extremely recently, but over time, because this conversation has been existing for a while. So first, our pickup packets. You will see a few things that have existed for a long time and one very important new one. So firstly, we show the total number of pickups in a project broken down between the number of Pozotron pickups, so that's suggested by our algorithm, and user-generated pickups. When you click and highlight the text, click the pickup button, and then it creates that yellow underlined pickup. Secondly, if not every annotation, so Pozotron suggestion, has been closed, which means clicked open, clicked OK, pick up, filter out, whatever, it will give you a warning. Not every potential proofing spot was reviewed. Please go back and mark all notes as pickup, typo, filter it out, okay. So if you receive this pickup packet and you see that warning, they didn't fully review everything. Now, finally, as of this morning, you will see, and next week the wording will be changed just slightly, but you will see a new line in your pickup packet. So if you as a narrator receive a pickup packet, and it will show there are a total of, in this case, 62 pickups in this report. Just to be clear, that 62 is Pozotron suggested pickups, and the wording will change next week to be a little more accurate. The proofer marked these 62 Pozotron suggested pickups out of 66 annotations suggested by Pozotron. If you get these numbers and it's 66 out of 66 or 100 out of 100 or even 62 out of 66, that gives you an opportunity to go back to the person who sent you the pickup packet if you're seeing a ton of pickups you don't agree with and say, you clearly didn't listen to everything. And you either don't agree on what a pickup is, or you just use Pozotron without actually doing that human touch. So we want to give you as narrators the ability and the information to go back and make that decision and work with the other people in your project, I should say. Secondly, the Proofing Insights Report. So this is available at the individual level for your own projects. At the enterprise level, which is, production studios and publishers, they can actually export a report on all of their users. This report here is really bad news for our friend Johnny, because as you can see, Lindsay, you've got the user. There is actually normally a book column there, but just for the purposes of this screenshot, I deleted it. So user, book name, chapter duration, percent of Pozotron annotations marked as pickup, and then number of user created pickups in that chapter. You can see Lindsay, she hovers between 5 and 46% marking pickup. Daria hovers between, well, there's one outlier, but significantly less than 25% mostly. Johnny, 100% across the board. Johnny, you are in big trouble because you're clearly not listening to things. You're just going and willy-nilly choosing pickup. So this has been available for a couple months now and is an ability and was created by actually one of our customers who was having the issue of the people their provers weren't doing their work properly. Another thing we are going to be adding here as well, that's just a lot more difficult, is an ability to actually compare the chapter duration with the time the proofer actually spent on that screen. So if you have an hour-long chapter and the proofer spent 5 minutes proofing that chapter, 1,000%, well, it's not possible that they could have listened to that whole audio. So that's the kind of thing. And then also actually the ability to report as well if the user sped up the audio when they were listening. Is that a chat saying Johnny's in big trouble?
Yep. Yeah. Thanks for throwing me under the bus there.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple other things. Sensitivity settings. You can control the sensitivity in proofing for our word mistakes, the actual missed words, added words, and mispronunciations. You can control the sensitivity for noise detection. Sensitivity settings for our pronunciation guide, I changed that there. Word suggestions. So, how many versus how few suggestions you want to see. And then you can change all of our audio analysis specs to give a really narrow acceptable gap versus a really wide one. And then most importantly, when any company or individual user, whether you upload a minute or 1,000 hours a month to Pozotron, we provide free training and onboarding. It is in our best interests that Pozotron is used as efficiently as possible by all of our users because we have happier customers who continue to pay us. Like at a pragmatic approach, that's what it is. I have also been very clear that back when Pozotron started at the very beginning, we were a team before Johnny or I were even with the company. And this isn't to denigrate the people who were doing the work then. We were a small team. We were a couple people. Almost our entire staff were developers. Their job and skill sets were not to train users or to handle support tickets. They were doing that, but that wasn't their main skill set. And so over time, we have made it a huge priority to continue to improve our onboarding and our training to make sure that if a publisher or production studio is using Pozotron, they're not doing it in a way that is going to negatively impact the narrators that are receiving their pickup packets. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get into new Pozotron features, but do we have any questions about superfluous pickups or data usage or our terms of service or anything? Surprisingly few questions today.
We do have David in the chat saying he does see potential issues with the time spent listening to the pickups versus raw audio. And David, we'd love to just hear your thoughts or suggestions on that.
And
If yeah,
sorry, just to be clear there, that is only available to the project owner. That is not something that's going to be available to other people involved in the project. So that is data only
yep.
available to the project owner. That's not a public thing.
Looks like we do have a question in there.
Okay. I've been using Pause for a while now, years in fact. It's still the only thing I use it for is to detect reading errors, check what are and aren't mistakes, and download the markers for my DAW. I don't use many of the other features. I just don't have the time. Any chance that a pricing structure might be implemented for just that, sans all the other bells and whistles? So that's specifically why, anonymous attendee, that we do price everything else separately. So the script prep tools, those are completely separate. So those are a per project basis. Those are not included in the proofing cost. There is a reason why our pricing is moduled, for lack of a better term. You pay for the script prep tools separately, then you do the proofing tools. So good question, but that's exactly why the proofing is separate. Jack DeGolia, I've noticed noise detection seems inconsistent. Some breaths are identified as gasps while louder ones aren't flagged. Not currently, but that's great feedback. And that's all part of things that we're continually working on. I hope it's gotten better since our noise detection algorithm was re-released in November, December. We do also track how many times people notify us in terms of if it's a wrong mistake, if it's a bad mistake, or if you do create a user pickup that says hashtag breath, we use all that data to better inform our noise detection. So would love to get more details. Hopefully it's gotten better, but we're well aware noise detection is challenging because a breath that someone wants to remove, the exact same breath by a different narrator is totally fine. So there's no perfect one size fits all solution, but hopefully it's getting better. And we do foresee a time as well. That's why we actually have that sensitivity setting for noise detection: relaxed, sensitive, relaxed, normal, extra sensitive. Okay, I can't imagine, just a comment, I can't imagine finalizing a Pozotron audit without listening to the entire chapter, even after listening to each flag pickup. Great, thank you, Tad. That's exactly how we want that's exactly how we would want it to be used. All right, Mr. David H. Lawrence, the 17th. I just see your note saying would love to clarify. What exactly would you like us to clarify? Because we are an open book and would love to explain what you'd like to know. Maybe that was in relation to time spent listening to the pickups versus the raw audio.
You want to bring him
No,
on?
so he said yes. So I'm assuming that's
Okay.
just in relation to David Stinson. Again, that is not public data. That is for if you work for a company, they could access that data. If you are proofing by yourself, you have access to that data and you alone, and you decide who to share it with.
And depending on your own internal standards, they would have their own rules on what's an acceptable amount of time and all of that. So
Exactly.
just trying to put the information out there so you can see it and, adjust if necessary.
And just to be clear, that is not currently available. It is sometimes I put requirements together for a development item that I think is going to be really quick. That is not one that's going to be really quick. Because if you open up chapter 1 proofing and then go get a coffee and then forget about it for 2 hours, technically it would show you as 2 hours on screen when you didn't actually do anything. So there's a lot of work to get that done. So that isn't really in the near term. Okay. New Pozotron features. So hopefully, can you see that now, Johnny? What are you seeing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
seeing Pozotron.
Okay. So main screen here. Okay, so you'll see a new UI. It's not by default, so you can either type /v3 or click this button here to go from the old to the new UI. This will become, after we go through any bugs or anything that we found, this will become the default for everyone. But this is our new projects page. It is the first step of a complete revamp of the UI in Pozotron. If you have feedback, you have ideas, please don't hesitate to let us know. One of the big things that you can see, one of the big new features on here is folder sorting. This was requested by a whole bunch of people. It is currently possible if you click these checkboxes, or you can do it one at a time by clicking the 3-dot menu, click those checkboxes, and then click move. you can move that to a different folder. We are going to be adding drag and drop functionality as well, and your folders are listed up here. And so you can actually create a new folder by clicking the three-dot menu, click add folder. New functionality is going to be added based on things we want to improve or things people suggest to us. And if you click on unfiled, that takes you back to your main page with all your projects that haven't been filed. One more thing on the new UI, you're going to see us using this banner in much more detail to provide new information. So for example, promoting the webinar you are all currently on. This currently does not rotate, but it will start rotating automatically. A service announcement. So we did change the way some projects were shared. So we put a notification up here for people to use. Do you need help? Visit our help center, book a training call with us. And then finally, what's going to be last here, if you want to submit a feature request. So please pay attention to this marketing carousel up here because we are going to be communicating some really important things. Yes, we will still be sending emails. I don't read a lot of the emails I get from things I'm subscribed to. So well aware that email is a very flawed type of communication. So we're going to be using this more often. And then we can also add in notifications here, which you can see scheduled maintenance notice that we are going to be down for about 20 minutes from at approximately 1 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday morning. So that's where we're going to be communicating a lot of that stuff there. And then eventually you will also see an actual notification up here where it'll have a little alarm bell or something like that, where you can see all your notifications. Yeah, let me go back to, here we go. What else new have we released? Proofing. New noise detection algorithm, as I said, should be, so I just got a question that I'll read in a second. So new noise detection should, from what we've seen so far, dramatically decrease the number of false annotations or false suggestions and increase the accuracy. Number two, you can actually now, this was a customer request. So previously, if you customize some of your reports, so if I go in here and go import, export, pickup packet, and then if I customize my report here, what the previous slate number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if slate number 2 was not included in the report, it would renumber everything. If you click keep slate numbers consistent, that will mean that if you eliminate by using the include exclude filter, you eliminate what would be the second pickup. Your pickup report slate numbers will now go 1, 3, 4, 5. So it'll keep your slate numbers consistent across everything. That was from a user suggestion. We've made a bunch of improvements to normalization based on feedback. We just made a ton to French, actually. So non-English language as well as a few in the English language. And we've actually just hired a analytical linguist to help us with a lot of our normalization and the way our algorithms are designed. And we made a bunch of PDF OCR improvements as well, and we are going to continue to make that better. One of the things you will see in the near future is if a OCR issue is found on your script, it will actually prompt you and be able to click a button and reprocess that script to fix those issues if it wasn't fixed in the first processing. Script prep tools, suggestion sensitivity. I'll show this right. Nope. So if you go into pronunciate, I need to go into the correct project. My apologies. Here we go, webinar project. So if you want to change, you're going to go into pronunciations, open suggestions, and you're going to see suggestion sensitivity here. So you can control foreign sensitivity, foreign word category sensitivity, as well as complex. So I'm going to do complex here. Currently, we have 5 suggestions. If I go to more, we have 20. If I go to less, we have 3. Very easy for you to be able to control that, and we'll keep optimizing that as we go. Secondly, I think next is see all occurrences. So previously in pronunciation and characters, you would only be able to see one occurrence of, or sorry, the first 5 occurrences of a word, but here's Rosaline with 11. This shows you all 11. I tested this earlier with the or the, that showed me 378 examples. So you can see every single time that word is found in the script.
Mm-hmm. Particularly useful for characters, seeing exactly where they're mentioned in every part of the script. That's been requested a lot, so we're happy to add that.
Exactly. So I'm going to share this project with Johnny at Pozotron.com quickly. I forgot to do that before this. Narrator rights. Now I'm going to go into pronunciation. I can actually go in and in pronunciation, I can say, okay, Johnny, you have to go in here and pay attention to these two entries. And then Johnny can come in and actually filter this by assigned to me. Let's see if I can assign it to myself. I cannot assign it to myself for some reason. But then he could actually come in here and filter, and it'll only show him the words that are assigned to him. So just a really customized way of working with other people in your project. And then finally, some search improvements to our character guide. And that is another user request. So for example, here, so this actually here, these two things, this is an example of our character descriptions tool. So gender, female, and curious, excited, thoughtful, we're actually automatically
Populated.
thank you, by our
Mm-hmm.
AI. But let's say previously you could only search by username, but let's say in this case, I want to search gruff. It'll only show me Piper. If I want to search baritone, it'll only show me that. So you're actually able to search within these boxes as well. So I will answer Matthew Kelly's question. So his question basically is around what do we do to ensure that bad actors can't get the voice files? So firstly, we have we use everything that we can do to use industry best standards for security. We don't host with some random online provider. We use literally one of the two biggest providers in the world that have a ton of firewalls and other security controls that we've built in. However, as again, I just watched Mission Impossible last night. So one of the things they say in there is that the biggest security concern in any information system is people. We do background checks on everyone who works for Pozotron. We use what's called the principle of least access, which means people only have the amount of access that they need to do their jobs. So, not our team can't see all the data in our system. That's not possible. And we use a whole bunch of different methods to ensure that people have just the proper amount of access, the least possible access to do their jobs properly. And so in terms of our data, yes, there are encryption, there are firewalls, there are many other things to ensure that your data is secure. We are well aware that if the next massive bestseller, which is being made into an audiobook before it's released, gets leaked because Positron gets hacked, that's really, really bad for a number of reasons, but our liability is massive. So we do take it very, very seriously, just to be super clear there.
Yeah, and if you've ever had a issue and that you've opened up a support ticket with, you'll notice that we ask you to share the project with us because we don't have access to, everything going on in your projects. And Adam, maybe just quickly show where to delete a project, because if you are very concerned about this, you can always take your data off of our site and it's permanently gone. So it's super easy to do. Just
project settings, delete project, and then you just have to type yes. And that is only possible for people who own the project, just to be clear. We also sometimes get a request from, and could you delete this project? Unless it is coming from the project owner, our team can't delete it. We have to get that in writing from the actual project owner. I was going to say something. I'm sure it was genius. Anyways, I can't remember what it is.
There are also, if you are going to be deleting your projects, if that's a concern of yours, there are also ways to download the information you get from Positron, like our pronunciation guides, character guides. You can download that all to your computer and then delete it off of our servers. So we do have all the options there for you to also take your own security measures, but we do take it very seriously and have those options for you.
Exactly. I remember what I was going to say. Along the lines of humans are the biggest flaw in any security system.
Speak for yourself, man. No, I'm just joking.
we will be making, we put our staff through phishing training and a whole bunch of other IT training to make sure that we're doing everything we can on a humanity perspective. Please don't share passwords. Set up accounts, use sharing. We will be making it impossible to share passwords soon. There's no impact on the amount you pay for Pozotron because you don't get charged for user seats. There's only so much we can do to secure your data if you're sharing your passwords with other people. So please create your own accounts. Please set up two-factor authentication, which will become mandatory at some point this year. That is for all of our protection, our liability on the security side, and your protection to make sure that you're keeping your data secure as well. So please don't share your passwords. Finally, I say this as many times as I can. We actually want to hear from you. If we do something that annoys you, I sensed a little bit of somewhere between consternation and worry or fear or hatred around the time on screen thing we discussed earlier. If you don't like it, send us a message. We would like to engage in the discussion. We can't get better. We can't improve the impact our tool has on everyone, whether you pay us or you just receive a pickup packet, if we're not part of the conversation. I filmed a video to try and get posted in a couple narrator groups this week, specifically to be part of the, I don't know if it was or not, specifically to be part of the conversation around Pozotron causing superfluous pickups. We can't improve if we don't hear from it. Obviously, I'd much rather get constructively negative feedback than someone screaming at me. But if someone wants to scream at me, I've got 2 kids. I'm used to it. Happy to have that conversation. So email us at help@pozotron.com. Email me at adam@pozotron.com. You can actually go directly into our calendar and book a meeting with us from your Pozotron page or from our contact us page. So if you're here inside of Pozotron, so you can go to a new UI. You can click on help and you can request support. You can actually go here. We should actually probably book a demo up here, Johnny, if you can make a note of that. You can go to here, go to book a training call. It'll take you directly into our calendar and allow you to book a call with us. Jack, why don't you send us an email? That Jack says it every time I go to Pozotron, I have to log in. That is on purpose, but that is based on some of your browser settings. So if you want to send us an email, we can help you with that. But industry best practice, log in and log out every time. Again, if your computer gets stolen, if you lose it, you don't want to have access, give other people access to your stuff. And two-factor authentication, please. Okay, so final thing. Please contact us. Please point out if we do something wrong. Please point out if you want something different in Pozotron. I can't promise it's always going to be done or done quickly, but we do want to hear from you. And then finally, you will be receiving a customer survey from us this week. Please respond. These are all the things we use to determine what our dev team's going to work on for the rest of the year. Prioritize certain things if they're massively outside of what we expect. A few years ago, we were doing a ton of work on other things, and someone on this call actually responded very forcefully and nicely in the survey, and then booked a follow-up call with me to say, spend more time on your PDF parsing. And we did. We spent a ton of time, and we reduced the number of PDF tickets we got by like 85 or 90%. So we do want to hear from you. We can only get better if we're part of the conversation. So thank you very much for your time today. Johnny was concerned we'd go over, but I have 1 minute left. Thanks for using Pozotron and hope you have a great rest of your day.